Kinnah, of course, we're talking about what people started in when he came into the British, into the Becker to the Goshen. It says many things very fundamental. No, that way, you know, he's captain for Rochas. The God of Rochas, Balash Nekonim, and Rochas bled. Kind of about that, I'm done with it. Red flow which came out of it, and so the circle did it said, oh, this is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and I killed Hashem, Machmar Islam, after the book. So but the point is like this, of course, it's ridiculous, but it's bled. Baruch is bled. Doesn't mean that it was bleeding. It was bleeding. So the idea is, this is the assault of our goals, which is, the Shekhinah is damaged during our goals. There's the idea of shilta b'Knisa, really the ikar chud, the chiyah of the ikar tsar, which we're supposed to have on Tisha is that the Shekhinah is something different. As we said, Ba'aloch, we passed in this way. There's no difference not to Torah with Manaseh. No such difference not to Torah. Why is it not to Torah? Because it says, at the time of Chazal, even after the Churban, at the time of Chazal, there was still a recent plea. There's still real miracles. There is a body that Kodesh Baruch Hu could communicate with Am Yisrael through a basketball. The tzaddikim were able to go up and later on all sorts of things. The Chazal from the Seder and Dois, amazing miracles with the oil and the vinegar. There was Gilu Shino. And now we don't have it anymore. So Chazal says we don't have can't have an apikoros with Zanaseh. How can you have an apikoros when nobody can see? But once people saw it, even after the Churban of Beis HaMikdash, when Am Yisrael was on Ohaiv, that much rega. So the Baruch is bled. There is a lack of Shekhinah. We have to understand that that's what we're missing. With no Beis HaMikdash, in Golus, final Golus, of course, was the Sarugim Malchus, which comes up later on, after Bar Kochba, but that actually was the devastation of the Shekhinah is what we're really crying, what we're really missing. And then it says, we say to Kodesh Baruch, we say, Ani b'sochi b'yo arutze lo b'tzavor. We went towards Titus, towards the nations of the world, with our neck extended. So this is an element of Tisha which we have to remember. First of all, the Beis HaMikdash itself is called the Tzavor, the neck of the world. It's where the connection between the head and the rest of the body. And the idea is that this is Am Yisrael's mission in the world. Am Yisrael's mission in the world, which transcends any individual life, which transcends any Beis HaMikdash even, is the idea that we are here, we're here to represent the Kodesh Baruch Hu in the world, and our nation is Am Hashem, and even though we have a mitzvah of Chai Bohem, nevertheless, there are many certain things for which we immerse in nefesh, including for our Kodesh Baruch Hu and for Torah and for mitzvahs and all those things which represent Mamlechus Kohen V'Lo Kodesh. And I think every Jew knows that. Every Jew knows that. Even the Chilonim, even the non-religious who go to war for Am Yisrael know that this is something. Am Yisrael is a unique nation, and we have this unique task, unique responsibility, which we try to remember every Tisha B'av. So Tisha B'av is so important because it teaches us not just in times of simcha, not just in times of joy, not just in times of happiness, but in times of avelus also. Hinei zeh omed achar kosleinu, and the Kodesh Baruch Hu is behind here, and that this Kinnah also focuses on the fact that that the Kol Kaisel is there, and there's always this connection with Baruch Hu, which represent. It's a fascinating line in the story in the Kinnah about the Kohen Gadol getting up in the morning and not finding the 39 klisharis, the 93 klisharis. It's a strange thing. Salvation points out. He says, "What do you mean? He got him next morning. He didn't know the Churban occurred. He got him next morning. He's looking for 93 klisharis. Of course, he's not going to find them. He's the place is destroyed." But he brings elsewhere. He brings a very cryptic story, but I think it captures our dullness, our lack of sensitivity. That he says that what's going to be? How's Mashiach going to come? Chaim Balozhin would say, "How's Mashiach going to come?" He says, "Mashiach is going to come." One morning, Rebbitzon's going to leave the house and he's going to say, "Chaim, make sure the oatmeal's on the fire; it doesn't burn." And okay, I said, "Okay." So the Chaim Balozhin sitting and learning. And all of a sudden, there's a big noise in the city. And everybody looks out the window and says, "What's going on? Why is everybody in turmoil?" And the people say, "The Chaim, didn't you hear? Mashiach is here." So the Chaim says, "Yeah, Mashiach is here. I have to get out my Shabbos frock." So he goes to the class and he takes out his Shabbos frock. And when I say I had the frock, he saw the two buttons in the back. One of the buttons is missing. So he says, well, what am I going to do about this button? I can't go out to read Mashiach when I'm missing a button. So he's saying, but in the meantime, the oatmeal burns. And Rebbitzin comes back and says, Chaim, I told you this. What about watch the oatmeal? Can't you do anything right? You didn't watch the oatmeal. That's the end of the story. It's a very strange story that Chaim Beloshn told about how Mashiach's going to come. But the idea is, that's how we go through life. We go through life. The oatmeal is good. What about the oatmeal? Make sure to remember the oatmeal. Make sure that you have a button missing. How can you greet Mashiach? Means we have to wait every day with a tremendous sense of preparation. Famous story. It's kind of going with the suitcase. Okay, we don't do that. But the idea is that a person has to have this whole idea of Tzipis Yeshua. That's the one question they ask you when you come up to Shema. One of the questions they ask you when you come to Shema is Tzipis Yeshua. Did you have that in mind all the time to report to Yeshua? The story about Elazar ben Arach. Elazar ben Arach was a big time Chacham. He went out. He said he's going to do Kiyum and Dumsis. Dumsis was a spa, and he went to Dumsis to try and get carry people. Whatever happened, happened. Anyway, he became too much. He was drawn after the pleasures of the spa. And when he came back to the base medrash, they gave him an Aliyah, and he was supposed to read Aliyah B'Chodesh Hazel Lachem. And he read the Aliyah. He read and said, when he leaned and said, Hacheres Hayoli Bam. Their heart became like pottery. And the idea is of the Avelus of Tisha B'Av. It's meant because it's an Avelus Yishana, it's hard to be more Avelus. So therefore, we try and do things with the Kinnos to make ourselves emotional, to try and bring ourselves to a point where our hearts are not thick, are not like pottery. And therefore, the Kinnah ends, of course, with this story of the mass suicide. The powerful story about all the young men and young women who committed suicide, and in order not to succumb to the Romans. And it's important to understand that this world is primarily a world of Hester. And it's hard to go through Hester. And the tremendous Hester we had in our generation, when you read stories about the Holocaust, it's even hard to understand how people come out with emunah very often. So we say we never judge people who went through the Holocaust because it was such a terrible. I teach it every year in school, and it's unbelievable the things which happened there at the time. But the world, Chazal say, is primarily chashoicha. It's primarily darkness. And the Chazal also say, yes, it's tzaddikim immediately b'vinyana, b'churban yes b'vinyana. More tzaddikim were given to us when the Beis Hamikdash was in a state of this destruction than when the Beis was in a state of construction. Stars shine brighter in the darkness and the light. And the Kaisel is an allusion to this. It's more precious because it's the light which transcends the darkness. Chazal say, there's no light like the light that comes out of darkness, and the Shekhinah, which is missing, which is damaged, is still there. That's what the Kaisel represents to us. He didn't do complete destruction. He never does. And we always have to find how we're going to be the light. And the story of the mass suicide is a message from the old generations. Winston Churchill said, nations that went down fighting rose again, but those who surrendered tamely were finished. So, halachas kama v'kama is true about Am Yisrael. We never go down tamely. Whatever the case may be, that's what we always fight to the end, and we represent the Kodesh Baruch Hu, and we try to bring about Kiddush Hashem even in the midst of the darkness.
Kinnos test signing can be found in the shul's paperback Kinnos on page 32.
Der Seins Parasha, so it's hard to be